Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, a lot of news now over the last couple of days. Obviously, big trip to Asia. Already in Malaysia, Trump has inked some historic trade deals, as well as minerals deals, and of course, a peace treaty between Cambodia and Thailand, and it's only the first day of his trip. Thursday will be the big meeting with Xi Jinping and the potential of a new historic trade deal between the United States and China. And so, as the government shutdown grinds on, and as President Trump now is abroad making historic agreements and trade deals, here in the United States, radical Islam, and I'm choosing my words now very carefully, is poised to achieve its greatest victory over the United States since the Islamist terror attacks on September 11, 2001. Zoran Mamdani, the Islamist communist candidate for mayor, is now way in the lead. It appears that nobody can stop him. And as he gets closer to becoming the mayor of New York City, the financial, economic center of the United States, and in many ways the world, his Islamist self, his communist self, his Antifa self is now coming up to the surface. He's now telling us more and more and more and more what he plans to do, what his coalition is all about, and what his ultimate aims and objectives are. And I'm telling you, my friends, as honestly as the sun rises every day, if we do not confront this man now and stop him from becoming mayor, I do not believe New York City will be able to recover, and I believe it will be the first stage of an Islamist takeover of the United States. Not today, not tomorrow, but I'm talking in about 10, 20, 30 years. This is clearly now the plan. And so, here is exactly what took place just in the last 72 hours. It has now come out that Zoran Mamdani, in June of 2025, so what is it, 4 or 5 months ago, met with the dear leader, Barack Hussein Obama, where they met in Obama's infamous war room. This is where he plans attacks against the Trump administration and strategies for Democrats to take over cities, governorships, and political races. He met with him twice. At both of those meetings in the Obama war room were members of the Muslim Brotherhood, or to be more accurate, members with ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is behind Mamdani all the way. In fact, one of the stories, and I cannot believe the media is not pursuing it, is the dark money that is now pouring into Mamdani's pockets and into his campaign coffers. He is getting money from Saudi Arabia. He is getting money from Qatar. He is getting money from other Muslim Brotherhood Gulf sheiks like the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Kuwait. In other words, the Islamists now believe that he is their man, and they are about to install him in power in New York. And once he takes over New York, make no mistake about it, this is just the beginning, because New York for them is the prize. But then they will slowly infiltrate the rest of the country. All you have to do, they followed the exact same plan in Britain. They installed Sadiq Khan, a Muslim, a socialist. London now is finished. It is a third world hellhole, overwhelmed with Muslims, with Sharia law, and the native peoples of London have been basically ethnically cleansed, chased out. And now it is spreading to city after city after city. This is their goal here, to replicate it in the United States. Mamdani now is finally being attacked forcefully and frontally by both Andrew Cuomo, the Democrat that he defeated in the primary, who's now an independent, and of course the Republican nominee, Curtis Sliwa. There was an ad put out by the Cuomo campaign in which they say that Mamdani, had 9/11 happened today, Mamdani would be cheering the 9/11 terrorists. To which, of course, he and his many supporters in the media, and it is shocking how many supporters he has in the media, are now saying this is quote-unquote Islamophobia. This is Islamophobic. This is anti-Muslim hate. And Mamdani went on the counterattack. He held a press conference in New York City in which he said, contrary to what many people think, he is a victim of 9/11. The Muslims of New York and America were the victims of 9/11. And in particular, his aunt, his Muslim aunt, was a victim of 9/11. And how was she a victim? Did she die that day? Niet. Was she injured that day? Niet. Did she lose a family member that day in the burning Twin Towers or in the Pentagon or in the fields of Pennsylvania? Niet. No. She was afraid to wear her hijab, her headscarf, on the subway for a couple of months after 9/11. It made her feel uncomfortable because she was getting she claims she was getting dirty looks. I swear to you. Listen now to Mamdani saying, no, don't you dare call me a terrorist sympathizer, even though I am a terrorist sympathizer. We, the Muslims, were the victims of 9/11. My aunt was the victim of 9/11. Hell, she had to take her hijab off for a couple of months because she felt uncomfortable riding in the subway in the wake of what happened. Roll cut 11, a mic.
I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt. Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
Are you kidding me? No, really, dude, seriously, are you kidding me? Do you know what an insult that is? How deeply condescending, insulting, frankly narcissistic, sick that comment is? You know who's never going to take the subway again? The victims. The 3,000 that were murdered on that fateful day. The families, their families that were shattered. They'll never ride a subway. Ever. Ever. Not because they think they got a dirty look here or there because of wearing a hijab. And by the way, have you gone to New York City? Have you seen the subway? It's full of hijabs. Forget hijabs now. The headscarf. It's burqas. It's covered head to toe. How dare you? Seriously, dude, how dare you? Your aunt was some kind of a victim over some non-backlash that Muslims felt or perceived after 9/11? When the President of the United States, George W. Bush at the time, bent over backwards. The mayor at the time, Rudy Giuliani, bent over backwards. City leaders bent over backwards to say Islam was a religion of peace. In fact, we covered up for the Saudis. We covered up for the real people that were funding and helped mastermind the 9/11 attacks. And now, all of a sudden, you're playing the freaking victim? You guys were the victims of 9/11 because your aunt for a couple of months couldn't wear a stupid hijab? Are you freaking kidding me? But it gets worse. There was a major rally over the weekend in which Mamdani's army showed up. And they were all there. AOC was there. Kathy Hochul was there. And they were all in unison shouting, tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. They wouldn't stop. They're wild supporters saying we will drive investment out of New York. We will drive the wealthy out of New York. We will drive the billionaires and the companies and the businesses out of New York. And Mamdani is telling them the revolution is coming. The revolution is coming. My friends, what we are now watching are the last days of New York City. There is now a shocking new poll out. 617-266-6868. Okay, speaking of raising taxes and a lot more. And really, we have our own Mamdani now in City Hall with Boston's Mayor Michelle Wu and obviously Governor Healy. 9 o'clock. You don't want to miss it. Set your time. We are going to blow the lid off what's happening on City Hall and in the governor's office. And you're not going to believe the plans they have for all of you, all of us taxpayers here in Massachusetts. I'm telling you, you're not going to believe it. So 9 o'clock, we're going to deal with the Mamdanis of Massachusetts. But first, to deal with Zoran. So yesterday, massive rally in New York, huge. They brought out the entire Mamdani army. AOC spoke, he spoke, Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, spoke. Hakeem Jeffries has now fully endorsed Mamdani, the House Minority Leader. Hochul has given him a full-throated endorsement. And she got on stage with Mamdani in front of his socialist Muslim foot soldiers. And they booed her. They booed her loudly. Because now Hochul is too moderate. Hochul, a very liberal left-wing Democrat, is now for them too moderate, too mild, too establishment. And so they chanted over and over again, tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. And she responded, I hear you, I hear you, I hear you. So Mamdani now is taking over the entire, not just New York Democratic Party, but increasingly now the National Democratic Party. He is becoming the face of the Democrats, along with AOC and Bernie Sanders. Now, there is a shocking new poll out. And if this poll is anything close to reality, and I suspect it is, we are looking at the fall of New York. I'm choosing my words now very, very carefully. According now to the latest poll, 26.5%. Okay, let's not quibble. 1/4 of all New York City residents, 1/4, 25%, say that if Mamdani is elected mayor, they will leave the city of New York. They're out. They're going to go to Florida. They're going to go to the Carolinas. They're going to go to Texas. Wherever they're going to go. But they're running. They're not walking. They're running. And if you break down the numbers, there are two groups in particular that say they are going to flee New York. And this is exactly what Obama and Bernie and AOC and the Muslim Brotherhood and Mamdani planned in the war room. This is working out. This plan of theirs is working out to a T. One of the largest groups will obviously be Jewish residents, Jewish New Yorkers, many of them multi-generational. They can see now the anti-Semitism is coming, the Jew hatred is coming, the terrorists and terrorist sympathizers are coming, This will no longer be a Jewish city, as it has been for a long time. There are more Jews in New York than any other city in the world, with the exception of Tel Aviv. This will become now increasingly, like London, an Islamic city. And in fact, Mamdani has now vowed that should he become mayor of New York, he will make the office of New York Sharia law compliant, as a step to eventually make New York City itself Sharia law compliant. He recently took a picture. I talked about it on this show. It's now getting tremendous reaction in New York and around the country, with literally the unindicted co-conspirator mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center attacks, the first one, the warm-up to the ultimate big one on in September 11, 2001. And that's the one that took place in 1993, in which 6 Americans were killed, dozens others injured, in a bombing at the World Trade Center that sought to topple the Twin Towers. He took a picture a couple weeks ago with a radical, openly Islamist, pro-Sharia law, pro-terrorist imam. Imam Siraj Wahhaj. Wahhaj. He was the mastermind, the architect of that 1993 World Trade Center bombing. In fact, he defended all of those Islamic terrorists after they were arrested. He went to speak on their behalf in court. He championed their cause outside of court. They openly said that they were inspired by him, that they were motivated by him, that he was in many ways their spiritual moral leader for why they had to destroy the Twin Towers, because according to them, America is a sick, sick country that deserves to be destroyed from within. Their words, not mine. The imam is, by the way, a vicious gay hater. You want to talk about a quote-unquote homophobe. He believes gays are a disease and need to be eradicated. He has called for a intifada against New York with a 10,000-man army. And Mamdani didn't just take a picture with him. They were smiling ear to ear, praising him as a great imam, as a great Muslim leader, as someone that he will look to for counsel and advice while he is mayor of New York. And so many Jews now, seeing the writing on the wall, are saying they're going to leave. The other big group that is going to leave are whites. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, so as I was saying on my way out, there's a huge new poll out. 25% of New Yorkers now say that if Mamdani wins the mayor's race, they're fleeing New York. It'll be an exodus, literally of biblical proportions. 25% is essentially 2 million, give or take. Actually, the number is 26.5%, but I'm just rounding it off for simplicity's sake. So Jews are going to be leaving. White neighborhoods, you're going to see massive white flight because he has vowed to raise property taxes on predominantly white neighborhoods. Look, this is racial ethnic cleansing. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. As I said, investors are going to flee. It's not just the billionaires. I'm talking business owners, companies, investors. They are going to leave. Taxpayers, middle-class taxpayers, upper-middle-class taxpayers. You are going to see an exodus of people, talent, businesses, and wealth like you have never seen before. And that's the point. That's what he wants, because that's how they will break New York. And then once they break New York, they can go city to city to city. That is their plan. And so this is now what New Yorkers are going to vote in, shockingly. Now, I got a message from Brian who said, was that Mamdani who was shouting, I hear you, when the crowd yesterday was chanting in unison, and I mean tens and tens of thousands. These are all Muslim socialist foot soldiers for the Mamdani movement. It was the far left. They came out, many of them openly holding hammer and sickle signs, many of them open AOC, Bernie supporters. They now sense their moment has arrived. They are going to capture the biggest, or one of the biggest, clearly the most economically important city in the United States. And they feel today New York, tomorrow Washington. They are now convinced of it. And so who was yelling to them back, I hear you, I hear you? No, it wasn't Mamdani. It was Governor Kathy Hochul who was with him. They were booing the governor because she's not radical enough. She's not Marxist enough. She's not Islamist enough. And so when they were chanting, tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich, basically calling for economic suicide. Because when they say rich, they mean businesses, white neighborhoods, investors. I mean, they basically mean chase the wealth, chase businesses out of New York. And she's chanting back, I hear you, or yelling back, I hear you, I hear you, I hear you, meaning she's now one of them. For her to politically survive, she has to now bend the knee to Mamdani, to AOC, to Bernie, to the rabble, and to the revolution, to this Marxist Muslim revolution. Now, let me just say a couple of other things, and then I want to go to the blazing phone lines. This occurred over the weekend as well. People now are noticing there are a lot more Muslims in New York than they ever thought possible. And I have to say, I misgauged it as well. I'm going to be very, like I'm in the confessional. I knew 20 million illegals poured in under Biden. I did not know so many of them were Muslims from the third world who were either directed or guided, but man, did they hit New York hard. There now are a lot of Muslims in New York, and they've come in just in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. This was Obama. This was all deliberately orchestrated and planned by Obama, just like Obama orchestrated Zoran Mamdani. And we now know for a fact that they met in Obama's war room, not once, but twice, in which Obama had present with him representatives directly tied to the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood is the Islamist power behind Mamdani. And so clearly, this was a stealth jihad that they waged on the United States. Now, in many streets and neighborhoods in New York, and people are shocked, they're walking down the sidewalk, and Muslim men will stop them because either someone has a cross or whatever. They're just identified as someone who happens to be Christian, or maybe a cultural Christian or a non-practicing Christian, but still not a Muslim. And they will say, get off the sidewalk. We're about to pray. Our mosque is full. We pray on the streets, and on the sidewalk, get lost. And people say, is this London? No, this is now New York. This is literally now New York. We're now, like in London, they will block the streets in many neighborhoods during their call to prayer. And Christians and Jews are not welcome. Get lost. The sidewalk, the street, is now an extension of the mosque. And they're saying they're seeing this now. They're becoming emboldened under Mamdani. Mamdani is essentially giving them the green light, come out of the shadows. This is now your city. It's no longer anyone else's city. Now, let me just say something else because it needs to be said. I never thought I would see the day that I agree with Andrew Cuomo. To me, I think he's a disgrace. I think he should have dropped out of the race, not Sliwa, him. I don't know why everybody's pushing Sliwa to drop out of the race. To me, it's Cuomo who should leave the race. But let that go. Even a stopped clock is right twice a day. When he said that Mamdani would cheer the 9/11 Islamic terrorist attacks, and the media now is in such an outrage, it's such an uproar. How dare you say that? This is Islamophobic. Of course he would cheer the 9/11 attacks. This is not even speculation. Of course he would. Now, he's a smart politician. He's a slimy, sleazy, with that fake grin of his, snake oil salesman politician. So he wouldn't do it publicly because he knows publicly there's still not enough Muslims in this country. So he has to keep it hidden. But privately, would this guy be chanting and celebrating and going, Allah, 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 Allah? You better believe it. Why? Because he took a picture with the radical imam. He was smiling ear to ear. They were arm in arm. What arm in arm? Arm over shoulder. So here was a man who masterminded the first terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. American lives were taken, killed, many others maimed and crippled. And he says he's one of the greatest Muslim leaders in America and around the world. Mamdani did. And says, I welcome his support, and he will have a voice in my office. So if he's smiling and laughing and celebrating with the man who was the architect of the first terrorist attack on the World Trade Center, he wouldn't be celebrating the second attack? And in private, he's telling all of his Muslim supporters, my election will be the biggest victory for Islam.
I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt. Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
That was the big victim of 9/11. His aunt. Yeah, she didn't wear the hijab there for a couple months. Yep, after 9/11 on the subway. Yep, that's according to Zoran Mamdani. That's the big victim. That was his big presser addressing comments about Andrew Cuomo's ad about that he would be cheering on the 9/11 attacks. Now, in that entire emotional press conference that he delivered, oh, my aunt, she didn't wear the hijab. Allah will burn. You will burn in hell. Allah will get you for this. Oh, how dare you? The one thing that he did not mention, everybody noticed this. It was shocking. Everybody, even the most liberal reporters in New York City, said, well, I got to say, it was really unnerving. The entire press conference, he never mentioned the victims of the September 11 Islamic terrorist attacks once. The 3,000 dead. He never mentioned them once. The worst terrorist attack on American soil in our history. And he didn't even mention the victims one time. Not even a second. Not even in passing. You want to talk about a narcissist. You want to talk about someone who is so emotionally and morally bankrupt that on that fateful day, and it's not just the 3,000 that died, the families, how many of them, their lives permanently shattered? Our nation traumatized? How we had to then invade Afghanistan to dislodge Al-Qaeda and the Taliban who were protecting them, and then launch a massive massive war on terror, and how much it cost our country in lives, in treasure, and frankly, our constitutional freedoms? It was worse than Pearl Harbor. And this SOB, this Muslim, Islamist, communist SOB, is going on about his aunt feeling uncomfortable in the subway wearing a hijab. And by the way, I'm telling you, I know this for a fact, because I had reporters report on this when I was at the Washington Times. Muslims still went to pray in their mosques. Women still wore the hijab in downtown New York. They still wore them in the subway. Nobody ripped them off their heads. So if his aunt felt a little guilty or didn't like some of the looks that she was getting, lady, that's your problem. There were many other Muslim women. They kept wearing the hijab. I mean, to mention something so frivolous, I'm sorry. I mean, you're almost looking, and you're like in stunned disbelief. But that's the Muslim Brotherhood. And see, now we know where all this is coming from. What matters are not the Christians and the Jews and the non-Muslims who were slaughtered that fateful day. Because according to the Muslim Brotherhood, these are all descendants, their words, of pigs and monkeys. So you see, that's like 3,000 pigs and monkeys got killed that day. What matters is that a Muslim woman felt uncomfortable enough, this is Sharia law, that she had to take off the hijab. How dare she feel so uncomfortable that she has to take off the hijab? That is a crime against Allah, against Islamic law, against the Quran. He's now showing us who he really is. And let me make one final point. And this to me, you know, I'm telling you, it's like watching the rise of Hitler. They always go on, the left goes on, Hitler, 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 Hitler. Well, here's something now that's pretty close. I can do apples to apples with this guy. He's been asked repeatedly, because remember, he was born in Uganda. He came to the United States as an immigrant when he was a young boy. Both his parents are very militant Muslims. His father, by the way, is one of the leading anti-American scholars. He reviles the United States and wants to make the world safe for Islam. He's written books about it. By the way, an open proponent and champion of Al-Qaeda and of the Muslim Brotherhood, his old man. Okay? The mother is a diehard communist. He's a red diaper baby, born in wealth and privilege, who lives in a rent-controlled, multi-million-dollar condo and went to one of the finest private boarding schools in all of the United States. He's the epitome of privilege. But let that go. Just let that go. He's been asked repeatedly to renounce his Ugandan citizenship because he's got dual citizenship. And the reason why is because, as you know, Uganda is one of the most, and I'm using this in the proper sense, one of the most homophobic countries in the world. Their official government policy, it's official policy. If you come out as gay, or if you're caught in a homosexual act, or if you're credibly accused and found guilty of being a homosexual or a lesbian, you get executed. They murder you in Uganda if you happen to be a gay person or a lesbian. They hang you. They shoot you. They kill you. It's government policy. He refuses to renounce his Ugandan citizenship. He will not even criticize Uganda's policy. He won't even denounce the policy, because if he denounces the policy, he can't throw a 3-day wedding like he did recently. For 3 days and 3 nights, okay? That was just, a month ago, 2 months ago. They partied in Uganda like there was no party before. There's going to be gay New Yorkers voting for this guy. There's going to be lesbian New Yorkers voting for this guy. The imam, who's one of his best friends and one of his mentors, who he took the picture with. Don't take my word for it. Listen to what he says about gays. Throw them off of rooftops. Murder them. Kill them. They're a disease. They have to be eradicated like a disease. And they're going to vote for this guy? There's a certain point where a society, there's like a form of collective madness, where a society literally becomes insane. It becomes mad. And I think New York has now reached that point. You're not even voting self-interest anymore. If you're Jewish and you vote for this guy, you're crazy. If you're a white person of any kind and you vote for this guy, you're crazy. If you're a gay person and you vote for this guy, you're crazy. If you have any kind of wealth whatsoever, I'm talking a home, a business, anything, and you vote for this guy, you are crazy. If you're a member of the LGBTQ community and you vote for this guy, and most of them will, you are effing crazy. Here we are. I'm telling you, here we are. I don't have to even get into the government-run grocery stores because you're going to go hungry. I'm not even going to, he's going to defund the police. He's going to empty out the prisons. What do you think is going to happen to most neighborhoods in New York, especially minority neighborhoods where many of them are released into? If you're black and Latino, you vote for this guy. You're nuts. I'm serious. Check yourself. Go see a psychiatrist. He's going to decriminalize prostitution. Is that what you want? Seriously, you want $10 streetwalkers now in front of schools? Because that's what's going to happen. I could go on and on and on and on and on. The stuff that this guy says is literally what you do and say if you want to destroy a society and burn it to the ground. Now, here's my prediction, and then I'm going to go to the phone lines. Mark my words. They did it in Dearborn. By the way, they're going to get an Islamist mayor now in Minneapolis. Okay? Omar Fateh. Watch out for him. He's going to beat out the white liberal, and actually quite far left, pro-BLM mayor. Remember, he's the one that let the cities burn after George Floyd. He's not radical enough anymore. Okay? Mayor Frey, F-R-E-Y. His days are numbered. Fateh is going to kill him. Politically, he's going to kill him. Because of all of the foreigners now that have poured into Minneapolis. But now they have the Muslim call to prayer. And now it's going to be citywide in Minneapolis. You watch. You give Mamdani 1 term. 1 term. By his 2nd term, the Muslim call to prayer will be across most of New York City. That's what Sadiq Khan did in London. So, on the very grounds of 9/11, on sacred hallowed ground, this is what you're going to hear every morning, every afternoon, every night. Allah, 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 Allah. Allah, 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 Allah. That's what you're going to hear. And I go back to that infamous quote by Obama. When he was elected president, he was interviewed by the New York Times as Nicholas Kristof. You can look it up. It's right there in black and white. And he asked him, what for you, to Obama, what for you is the most beautiful sound in the world? And Obama didn't even blink. And by that time, he was bragging about how many Muslim prayers he could say in perfectly fluent Arabic. And he was displaying his skill to Nicholas Kristof. And Kristof was like, wow, what a worldly man, wow. Okay? So he then says, well, what's the most beautiful sound you've ever heard? Obama's answer, the call of the azan, which is the nightly call, the final, the last one, the final Muslim call to prayer. That's the one of all the prayers, the one you have to attend. You have to attend all of them, but the one you really have to attend is that one. It's the loudest sound, it's the loudest prayer, it's the loudest call to prayer, it's the most powerful Muslim call to prayer. That's what Obama and the Muslim Brotherhood want to do to New York. And they're going to look at themselves and they're going to say, 25 years after 9/11, who won? Who won? And the answer is going to be, they won. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Ken in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Ken, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Ken.
I sort of agree and disagree. I think it's terrible news for the people of New York City. It's great news for the people of America. Let me explain why. You know what? They're not the Democrat Party anymore. Don't ever call them the Democrat Party again. It's the MMA Party. And people will think, no, Ken, you must have Mamdani as one of the M's. Oh, no. They're the militant Marxist anarchists. And how is this all going to play out? Oh, yeah. Mamdani's going to win. Oh, and where are a lot of the conservatives, anybody bright of center, going to go? That is, other than the Hasidic Jews. Everybody else is going to head what direction, Jeff? They're going to head west and south, like New Jersey and Miami, because there's not going to be New York Stock Exchange anymore. Of course not. Who, whether in the United States or anywhere in the world, would you rather go to Miami in January or New York City, especially after Mamdani takes it over? That's an easy answer. And the voters are going to go to New Jersey, and guess what? We're going to turn New Jersey red. So the big picture in all of this, oh, absolutely. All of the threats that you've outlined, absolutely correct. But this isn't bad news in the big picture of things because we've isolated them. The face masks are off. No ifs, ands, or buts. And we're going to take over. We're going to turn, with Scott Pressel's help, we're going to turn New Jersey red after Governor Tirelli takes it over. And I look nationally. There's just these pockets of extremists. They're anarchists. And we can easily point to the cities of Los Angeles, state of California, the city of Chicago, state of Illinois, New York City, state of New York. And unfortunately, yeah, you also have Oregon, number 4. You could have Massachusetts, number 5. So I feel sorry for the people who live in these pockets of radicalism. But the national government is saved. I'm charting out the next 36 years with Republican presidents with the way this is going. So, yeah, they violate federal law. It's simple. Insurrection Act. Easy. We got them. They're set up. Thank you, Jeff.
Ken, very interesting call. Ken, thank you so much for that call. Look, there's no question that the Republicans are going to be ultimately the biggest beneficiaries. There's no question on 2 levels. One, it's going to lead to an exodus, not just out of New York, but into people voting Republican. There's no question. So this is only going to strengthen the Republican Party across the country. No question about it. I think, secondly, there's no question now, it's Mamdani's party. It's AOC, Bernie, but really it's their party now. And he's going to be the face of that party, the poster child of that party, the voice of that party, and it's going to be a millstone around the neck of the Democrats. So, yeah, they're going to capture New York, but in the process, it may be a Pyrrhic victory. You've won the battle, but you've lost the war. You've captured New York, but you've lost the country. And that's now, and I'm hoping that the Republicans are smart enough to seize on this opportunity. Because if they're anything like the Republicans in this state, and that's why I'm urging all of you, please at 9 o'clock, tune in 2 hours. Because you're going to see now what both Michelle Wu and Governor Healy have in store for this state. You're not going to believe it. We have our own Mamdanis right here. But the resistance, the opposition from the Republicans, pathetic. It's pathetic. So, with Trump in power, with J.D. Vance, I'm very positive and optimistic. But the Republicans, you can't just lay down in front of this. You've got to stand up to it, and you've got to hit them as hard as you can possibly hit them. Because when I tell you Mamdani is dangerous, trust me, he is very dangerous. 617-266-6868. David in Medford. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Hello there, Jeff.
Hi, David.
Look at, I like the guy that was on before me. He pretty much said what should be said. I guess he's knows politics. But here's my thing. I live in Medford, Mass. Why is it that we got to listen to what the opposition people do? Now, it's not like I'm a Republican or a Democrat. I'm actually on a road. But why the hell do I care about New York? These people in New York always vote stupid. Nothing new here. They went bankrupt 3 times that I can know in my life. How about you and other conservatives reporting what is going good because Trump's policies are moving? I bought a dozen eggs, jumbo, $2.69. Milk, $3. They're coming down. Bacon, $2.79. I got some burgers and some steaks. You got to do this because when it was bad, the beautiful traders of the news and media were showing everyone on, I can't buy eggs, I can't buy bacon, I can't buy this. You got to bring out what's good because we have Trump and he's putting his policies in. Let the people see that they are good, and that if the people are as stupid as, I don't know what the poll is in New York or even around the country, but if the people in this country are so stupid that they don't like a good time, then you know what? What the hell good is it to be on radio and spout the good stuff? We just might as well just go and start the Civil War now and then go back to the beginning and start again.
Well, David, look, you make excellent points, and I have talked about it in the past, and I'm going to continue to talk about how successful Trump's policies have been. And I agree with you. Look, I do the shopping in our home. Gas is down. I don't care what anybody says. I'm telling you, when I tank up, it's down. Eggs are down. Bacon is down. Bread is down. Meats are down. You're right. Steaks are coming down. Food in general is less expensive. Now, I'd like it to be even more less expensive. I still think it could go down a little bit more, but we're going to get there. Rome wasn't built in a day. It took Biden and the left years to destroy our country. It's going to take Trump a little bit of time, but clearly we're in the right direction. There's no question. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, the previous caller I thought made some very, very good points about how things are getting better. Just when you go grocery shopping, never mind when you tank up at the gas pump under Trump, no question. But he said, well, look, New York has gone bankrupt multiple times in the past. That's true, in the 1970s and the 1980s. So let it fall. In other words, if they want to commit suicide, let them commit suicide and we'll all move on. This is why I think this is different. Again, you may disagree with me. And I just want to read, this is a really good text that I got from Rick. He's a nice friend of mine, and he personally texted me this. Jeff, the radical Muslim horse is within our gates. Mamdani is a radical Muslim Trojan horse. I agree. That's what's different this time. It's that you have an Islamist with direct ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, an open supporter of Hamas, an open supporter of Sharia law. Look, just a couple days ago on the campaign trail, he was confronted by a voter and said, will you denounce Sharia law? We don't want Sharia law in New York City. And Mamdani's answer is, why should I denounce it? Literally, that's what he said. He goes, I'm not going to denounce it. Why should I denounce it? He goes, well, it'll make so much of us, feel like, you'll ease many of our concerns. And he said, I'm not going to denounce Sharia law. So he's practically telling us to our face what he plans to do. Now, this is not just, labels or terms. You're going to see anti-Semitic intifada uprisings directly fomented from the mayor's office across New York. You're going to see terrorists continue to seep into the United States under him or be radicalized in mosques under his authority. Remember, the guy he took the picture with, smiling ear to ear, one of his big heroes, that radical imam, the unindicted co-conspirator. He's a terrorist. He's calling for 10,000 men. Raise an army of jihadists to wage jihad on the Big Apple. Again, I'm not trying to insult the people of Dearborn or any other small town or small city. This is New York. This is the economically, financially, culturally preeminent city in the United States. I don't care for New York. I've been a few times. I'm not a big fan of Times Square or Manhattan, but who cares? That's not the point. It's a city of 8 to 9 million people. Some of our biggest companies, businesses, so much of our cultural life emanates from there. What I'm saying is, for an Islamist to capture New York, you've captured one of the biggest cities in the world. Now, something else is going to happen. Okay, it's not just now the Islamists will now have a massive strategic beachhead within the United States. And you're going to see terrorist attack after terrorist attack, Islamization after Islamization. They're going to do to America what they did to Britain. Once London fell, it spread all across Great Britain. New York is the gateway to the rest of the country. There's no question. Secondly, and this is getting a bit biblical, but I think it's true. This is from 603. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. Jeff, here is something I predict you will see happen, and you can hold me to this. If Zoran Mamdani wins, you will see a good portion of the 1.3 million Jews who live in New York City invoke their right of return and flee to Israel in an almost biblical fashion. They may still retain their U.S. citizenship, but they will find sanctuary in the ancient Holy Land. I think he's right. Not completely. I think many of them will go to Florida. I think many of them will maybe go to New Jersey or to the Carolinas or wherever. I think not everyone is going to go back to Israel, obviously, but many will. Now, I have to ask you, we were always a safe haven and a sanctuary for refugees fleeing persecution. In many ways, that's the story of America. Not completely, but that's a good part of our story. And just to use the Jews as an example, they fled pogroms in Eastern Europe and came to America. They fled persecution in the Middle East and came to America. They fled the Holocaust, and especially after World War II and the concentration camps, and came to America. Do you understand what's changed? Is now America is not safe for them? That they have to flee the United States? Potentially by the hundreds of thousands? Again, like a biblical exodus? Back to the ancient Holy Land? To Israel? Because now the Islamists are within the gates? If the Jews aren't safe, who's safe? Do you think the Christians are safe? Okay, Jeff, I'm neither Jewish or Christian. Okay, you're a secular person. How long do you think you're going to last under Islam? Jeff, I'm gay, I'm lesbian. How long are you going to think you're going to last under these people, under the Muslim Brotherhood? And what they want is to sow division and chaos and war. Okay, just another quick reminder, 9 o'clock, set your dial. Because I'm going to blow the lid on what's happening here in Massachusetts. We have our own Mamdanis rising, both in the mayor's office, Marxist Michelle Wu, and Governor Holden Healy, and you're not going to believe what they have planned for us. And look, you can already see it in Massachusetts, and I'm going to talk about that at 9, obviously, but you see it in Oregon, you see it in Chicago, you see it in Los Angeles, you see it nationally. Mamdani and AOC and Bernie are clearly pulling the party now, the entire Democratic Party, to the radical far left. They're pulling Schumer to the radical left. That's the only reason why we're having the shutdown. The only reason. This is a political shutdown. Make no mistake about it. He's hoping that by shutting the government down, he can appease these Marxists and these AOC supporters enough. The Sandinistas, okay, the Bernie brothers, to not have AOC challenge him in a primary. Because I'm telling you, the way Mamdani is destroying Cuomo, that's what AOC is going to do to Schumer. Schumer cannot beat AOC in a primary, and he knows it. And you're starting to see this now in race after race after race. By the way, I'm not kidding. Remember we talked about this on Friday? The main Democrat who's running for the Senate, who, Graham Plattner, the guy with the Nazi tattoo, he is blowing Janet Mills. And she's a moonbat. The moonbat Democrat governor. He's killing her by 34 points. Plattner is now one of the most popular Democrats in the country. And who's his inspiration? Zohran Mamdani. Who are the shock troops, the base, the grassroots of his entire movement? The AOC, Mamdani, Bernie wing of the Democratic Party. So what you're seeing is in Senate races, congressional races, governor's races, mayor's races, he is pulling the entire party to the militant Muslim Marxist left. This is a watershed. And it's not just going to be the fall, and it is the fall, of a great American city. It's going to lead to the fall, ultimately, of the Democratic Party. In front of our eyes, it is metastasizing it is transforming, almost like a metamorphosis, into a communist, Marxist, almost anarchist party. 617-266-6868. That's why the Mamdani revolution and what's happening in New York it's something, it's literally, it's history in the making. It's a watershed. This is not, Mayor Dinkins or Ed Koch or, incompetent mayors that drove New York into the ground. This is something more sinister, more nefarious, and I hate to say it, more dangerous and more radical. Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome. Russ, do we have you? All right, let's see if we can reconnect with Russ. Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and as always, welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you today?
Good, very good.
So, let me get this straight. Mamdani's aunt was a victim. Mamdani's aunt doesn't feel safe. Mamdani's aunt was afraid to wear her hijab on the train station. What about the people to this day, Jeff, that still don't feel safe in this country because of what happened on 9/11? What about the people that went to work that day thinking they were going to be safe, going to the World Trade Center, going to their office to work that day? What about the people going to the Pentagon that thought they were going to be safe going to work that day? Even the people on Flight 93 were just on a harmless flight going somewhere. They thought they were going to be safe, too. This guy has the balls to say that his aunt felt unsafe and afraid. I got a message from Mamdani, Jeff. You know what, Mamdani? Screw you and your aunt.
Mark, I got to ask you, this is, again, people in New York are shocked. They're reeling. I have the logical answer. The logical answer is the foreign-born population of New York. And what I mean by foreign-born, these are people essentially let in by Biden over the 4 years of his presidency. I'm simplifying it just a little bit, but these are foreign-born New Yorkers overwhelmingly brought in by Biden. They're all going for Mamdani. The homegrown Democrats, these are liberal Democrats, they are going for Cuomo. And then you have some conservatives and MAGA supporters who are going obviously for Curtis Sliwa. So this explains why Mamdani is ahead in the polls and looks to be untouchable. But I'm not asking a nuts and bolts, electoral question. I'm asking a deeper question, Mark. Almost a moral question, a spiritual question, a philosophical question. How did such a great city, for all of its flaws, the financial capital of America, we all cried on September 11th. It was our city. The Twin Towers came falling down. I will never forget it for the rest of my life. And for a while, we were all New Yorkers. And the first responders who rushed into those burning buildings, and the American flags that were just everywhere in New York, and how they all of them, to a man and woman vowed, we will never forget. We will never, never forget. Now, I'm not talking about a Democrat city, or even a liberal city, or even a very liberal city, where you go, these New Yorkers, we're not talking about that. We're talking now about the Muslim Brotherhood, man. Like, seriously, Mark, we're talking now about an Islamist communist, a Jew hater, an anti-Semite, an open Hamas supporter, a man who now finishes his rallies the way Fidel Castro did. Down with the rich, down with the rich, down with the rich. And the crowd wearing berets and literally signs with the hammer and sickle, jubilant on, and yelling and screaming and repeating, down with the rich, down with the rich. How did we get here, Mark? Like, seriously, what happened? Like, what happened? In 25 years, the city is unrecognizable. What happened? I mean, what's your answer?
It's unrecognizable, Jeff. You want to know what happened? There's a few reasons, and I'll give them to you. Number one, okay, 9/11 happened almost 25 years ago now. The people that are old enough to vote now have not been educated on 9/11, do not have any idea who Osama bin Laden was, have no idea who Muhammad Atta was. They have no idea, and they refuse to tell the 18-year-olds, the 19-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, and so forth about it because they don't want to. They don't want them to know. And another reason, Jeff, why it's changed so much, Jeff, I don't know. Ask Joe Biden why it's changed so much. Because you elected a vegetable that opened the border that let 20 million people in here that are now able to vote. Okay? Now, my suggestion is this to the people of New York, if you're listening, don't put your tail between your friggin' legs. Get out there. Don't leave. You get out there. You take a friend. You take your family members. You go vote. And what else you got to do is do what they're doing in Virginia and do what I think they're doing in Illinois. The Republicans need to get off their ass, send poll watchers to the polls in these Democratic states, and make sure that no illegal people are voting. And I can guarantee you this, Mamdani won't win crap.
You know, that's a great point. I mean, that's a brilliant point, Mark. Honestly, drop the mic. If you cut off the supply of illegal aliens voting, Mamdani's not going to win. He's not. They need the illegals, and I think that's their ace in the hole. You brought so many of them into New York, and now Mamdani's promising the moon. He's promising them the moon. You make sure the illegals don't vote, Mamdani cannot get over the top. So it's up to the Republicans. Frankly, it's up to the Democrats if they really want to stop them. If they want to stop them, they can. But the sad thing is, I don't think they do. Okay, very quickly, lines are jammed. I want to go right back to the phone lines. But AOC was at this huge rally yesterday. Obviously, everybody's talking about it. Bernie Sanders was there. Mamdani, of course, was the headliner. Hochul bent the knee to the rabid crowd, saying she will tax the rich now. She's going to push a bill through the state assembly to back Mamdani's massive tax increases. So they can sense it now. The wind is at their back. They're on the verge of a Marxist revolution. It is Bernie Sanders' dream come true. He never thought it would happen. And it's going to be at the epicenter of capitalism. The very symbol of capitalism, New York, is now going to fall to a communist Muslim insurgency. Listen to AOC now. She goes on an absolute screaming rant. She's so excited, she cannot contain herself. The revolution is near. Roll cut 12, Mike.
This city was built by the Irish escaping famine, Italians fleeing fascism, Jews escaping Holocaust, Black Americans fleeing slavery and Jim Crow, Latinos seeking a better life, Native people standing for themselves, Asian Americans coming together in Queens, in Brooklyn, in the Bronx, in Manhattan, in Staten Island, in this country, in a vision to build the freest, toughest, and greatest city on earth.
Viva la revolución! I mean, all that's missing was her beret with the communist red star on it. I mean, that's it. That's literally it. So this is what they call their brown-black coalition. This is what the left, the radical left, has been talking about this for decades. That if you could put together, Black Americans and Latinos and Asian Americans, this is the revolution that they've been dying for. And Mamdani now says he will deliver it. Eventually, it will be a Jew-free city. It will be a white-free city. It will be a middle-class free city. And they will chase the wealthy, the rich, as they call them, out of New York. What's going to be left behind? Well, that's a different story. And Mamdani yesterday doubled down, just so that you know, saying he is going to gut the police, that they're going to abolish the prisons and release these violent criminals onto the streets, that these people need mental health, not incarceration, according to him, and that social workers are now going to be the ones responding to 911 domestic disturbance or domestic violence calls. So we're going to have social workers now in the middle, say, of a fight between a husband and a wife or whatever, with domestic abuse allegations. I mean, this is going to be a nightmare. He vowed he will decriminalize prostitution. He said government-run grocery stores are coming. Universal child care, he can't pay for it. It's coming. Free subways are coming. Free bus rides are coming. And he said he is going to soak the rich until they beg and cry for mercy. And his centerpiece, a massive tax increase on predominantly white neighborhoods. All that's missing is kill the boer or kill the farmer, as these Marxists, these racial Marxists in South Africa, as they hunt after white farmers. This is pure tribalism, pure identity politics, pure communism. And these lefties in New York are going to vote this guy in. You can't make this up. I mean, I don't know whether to laugh or to cry. I'm serious at this point. And I don't know how you feel. I'm like, my mind is completely split on it. I'm really of two minds. Half of me really is thinking, you want to go down. Go down. Like, if you're that stupid and ignorant and selfish, if you want to burn your city down, burn it down. Like, I'm tired of this. You want Marxism? Well, now you're going to get Marxism. And then there's the other half of me that says there are millions of New Yorkers who are going to be voting against this. I know if I was living in New York, I'd be voting against this. And these are my fellow Americans. And I don't want them to see their city burned to the ground. And the other part of me, and this is more the historian, but to me, I think of New York, I think of the Statue of Liberty. I can never get 9/11 out of my mind. And to me, it is, in many ways, has always been a symbol of the hope and the opportunity and the greatness of America. And to see it fall the way London has fallen, it's heartbreaking. I'm not going to lie to you. It's heartbreaking. So I'm really of two minds. Half of me says, let them go. They want to, hey, if someone wants to jump off the cliff, I'm not going to stop you. I don't know what to tell you. I can warn you and warn you and warn you. And honestly, at this point, they've been warned. No one can say they don't know what they're getting with Mamdani. Everybody knows what they're getting with Mamdani. Okay, with Commie Mamdani. Everybody knows what they're getting with the Commie. So a part of me says, okay, hey, you want to jump off the balcony? Jump off the balcony. And then the other half of me says, why? Like, why? 617-266-6868. But trust me when I tell you this. The moment he's elected, people are going to flee. Money is going to flee. Taxpayers are going to flee. And Mamdani will become the new face of the Democratic Party. And Trump is going to go to town on them. And so they may very well capture New York. But I'm telling you, they're going to lose the country. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Jimmy in Dorchester. Thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. You know what I was going to talk about? I was going to talk about Mondavi. But here's the thing. You mentioned 9/11. These young people don't, like Russ was saying, they don't realize what took place then. Because I'm going to tell you what took place, Jeff. Remember I told you I was at a house in Quincy where Ada was there with these guys a week prior, and a week later it happened. And when the FBI, thanks to a detective, I'll name his name because he's a hero, because there's more to this, and you mentioned Boston. Wait till you hear what I tell you, Jeff. Tommy Gleason was his name. I called him what I saw at the activities at that house where I was painting the house, and these guys had 5 computers, and they had hard drives. Otto was coming there. Half of these guys were coming there over a year. They were working at the airport. They were cab drivers. The people in the area never paid attention to what was going on that street and who these people were, right, Jeff? So listen to this. This detective, I couldn't get the FBI to do what I was telling them to do, so I called this detective, Tommy Gleason. He contacted them. They went there. And what they found, the paperwork and everything, after 9/11, a week after, was scattered all over. They found paperwork. They couldn't find the hard drives from their computers, what were on the hard drives. They went to U-Haul on the Quincy Braintree line. They took out 2 U-Haul trucks, and they went to a hardware store where they were buying stuff because they found receipts. What do you think they had in that hardware store that they had that they went for those U-Haul trucks? Cow manure. So what were they up to? And a question mark, Jeff, you're going to be talking about Boston, about the mayor and the governor. Then next, after New York, what he does to New York, because they didn't accomplish their mission. They're going to destroy it. And Boston is number 2. Because what do you think those U-Haul trucks, if they filled with hit 9/11, which they accomplished, who do you think was the next target? Boston.
Well, you nailed it, Jimmy. That's you know what, that gels with the reporting that, at the time I was with the Washington Times, and they were saying, people don't understand. The hijackers, some of those planes went from Logan. Many of those hijackers were funneled through Boston. There's a direct terrorist pipeline, Islamist terrorist pipeline in Boston. There's an Islamic terrorist network in Boston. It's been well documented. Look, the Boston Marathon Islamic terrorist bombing didn't happen out of the blue. That's 12 years after 9/11, but my point is, it didn't happen out of the blue. And so, yeah, they hit New York. Yes, they hit Washington. And the plane with the Pentagon, and the plane that landed in Pennsylvania was either going straight for the White House or for Congress. But after that first wave, we were one of their top targets next. There's no question. This is the birthplace of the American Revolution. We tend to forget that. Now, the rest of the world doesn't. When they think Boston, I understand it's Lexington and Concord, but when they think Boston, they think 1776. They think Faneuil Hall. They think the British are coming, the British are coming, the British are coming. That's what they think. So they want to hit us. It is a massive cultural symbol for them. And look, we've got a mayor now. She was radical to begin with. Look, you're going to hear it at 9 o'clock. But under Mamdani, AOC, and Bernie, she's becoming even more radical. You see, because now with Mamdani, he's given them the blueprint. So now they're copying his policies. And they think it's okay. They think it's popular. Look, they look at the crowds that Mamdani is getting in New York, and they've come to the conclusion, why can't I get those same crowds? This is a winner for Mamdani. It's a winner for me. So Michelle Wu thinks that's the ticket to be in power forever in Boston and to eventually become the governor and, in her crazy mind, the president. Brandon Johnson in Chicago looks at Mamdani and says, that's how you hang on to power. Do exactly what he's promising. Portland, ditto. Los Angeles, ditto. So what I'm saying is, you're starting to see now big, major, prominent blue cities I mean, they are going full-throated Marxist communist. And if there's a strong Muslim population, Islamist. That's Minneapolis. So it's going to be city after city after city after city. Now, this is going to alienate the heartland. And that's why I think Republicans in the end are going to be the ultimate victors. But my God, the damage that they're going to do. I'm talking as an American now, not as a political partisan. Sure, if I'm a Republican, if I'm a Trump guy, and I am a Trump guy, don't get me wrong, I'm thinking, guys, this is going to put JD in power for 8 years. And then whoever his vice president is for another 8 years. But look, Tucker Carlson said something once, and I think he's right. A great nation is defined by its great cities, whether we like it or not. That's just a fact. And if you have dying cities, you have a dying country. And my fear is, Florida has some great cities now. Texas has some great cities. The red states are building up some great cities. But to see New York fall, LA fall, like just everybody, just stand back. We're in the eye of the hurricane, so we're used to all this. But think about, these are world historical cities. It's akin to me saying, well, London's falling, Paris is falling, Rome is falling, Berlin is falling. You're like, do you realize the severity of this? The massive historical importance? These are some of the greatest cities in the history of the world. And they just fall without literally a shot being fired? So that's what we're starting to see here. New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle, Boston. It breaks my heart. No disrespect. These aren't some, jerkwater towns that no one's ever heard of. These are massive centers, or used to be, of commerce, of culture, of vitality, of inspiration, of pride. I can't tell you. Honestly, I'll give you an example as someone of Eastern European descent. You go anywhere across Central Eastern Europe, almost every second person you meet, Chicago. They got some relative in Chicago. And they're proud. They're like, yeah, they fled under communism or even before communism or whatever, and they found a home and they made a life for themselves in Chicago. It's a great... When I was in Croatia in August, with when I hurt my ribs, literally the driver that took me to my aunt's house, as he was driving, he goes, where are you from? I go, I'm from Boston. He goes, oh, Boston. He goes, I got a son. He's in Chicago. Croatian American. He goes, yeah, he left years ago. Loves it there. I visited him once. What a beautiful city. This was decades ago. It's so big. Oh, the buildings, the people. Oh, that wonderful lake. Oh, the restaurants. And I saw where my son worked. And my God, what a city. And there's so many Croatian Americans. And I met Serbian Americans and Ukrainian Americans and Russian Americans. He goes, wow. He goes, honestly, he says, one of the wonders of the world. And all I'm thinking, I don't want to burst this guy's bubble. I'm thinking, boy, you haven't been there lately, man. Oh, boy, they drove that thing into the ground. And fast. But what I'm just saying is, you go around the world. These are cities. It's like London or Paris or Tokyo, where these are great, great cities. Okay. I don't know what to say. There's certain point, I don't know what to tell you. You want to live, with homeless encampments? Because that's what you're going to get under Mamdani. You want to live with people defecating and urinating everywhere? Because that's what you're going to get with Mamdani. You want the streets overrun with gangs and criminals? And people getting shot and stabbed? And stores literally being looted? And businesses fleeing, and Jews being persecuted in pogroms? and, white people daily being told to leave and just being arbitrarily taxed and just keep taxing them and harassing them and persecuting them and harassing them and persecuting them. You want prostitutes in front of schools? Like, is this what I'm giving you the tip of the iceberg. You want to go hungry? You want bread lines? You want food shortages? You want government-run grocery stores? Okay. So I guess communism didn't teach you enough. You didn't see the history of, that wasn't enough. What it's done to everywhere in the world. You have to bring it here. Okay. You don't see the Middle East on the TV screen. You want to bring Hamas here. You want to bring the beheadings, the intifadas, the violence. So what? You want to shoot up synagogues here now? You want to shoot Jews dead on the street now? You want people praying on the streets in front of mosques, clogging up traffic like in France? Okay. I don't know what to tell you. Thank you for that call, Jimmy. 617-266-6868 is the number. John in North Carolina. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff.
Hi, John.
So, listening to the calls, actually, since I got picked up and your comments back, I'm having visions of Escape from New York being the future in 20 years if Mamdani is elected.
That's a pretty good that's a pretty good analogy there, John. Who's going to be the Kurt Russell character? That's what I want to know. It could be Curtis Sliwa.
Part of the problem with illegals voting is, what's the current penalty for casting a fraudulent vote?
Well, that's the other thing. They don't really, A, it's not that severe, and B, they don't even enforce it. And that's why Mamdani now, just look at him. He looks like the cat that swallowed the canary.
If we made fraudulent voting a federal felony with a minimum mandatory of 5 years, per count, I think that might go a long way towards dissuading people.
I agree. John, I agree with you, not 100, but 1,000%. Make it a federal felony, minimum 5 years in jail. And maybe they'll start thinking twice. But right now, it's not New York City. It's Mamdani City. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, in about 40 minutes, 9 o'clock, trust me, you want to see how far now to the radical communist left. And I'm choosing my words very carefully. Zoran Mamdani is pulling the Democratic Party. You got to see what they have in store now in Boston and in Massachusetts. Now, I could do other states, but I'm just going to do Boston and Massachusetts. But this is Bernie's party. This is AOC's party. This is not even Chuck Schumer's party. What I'm telling you is this now is a very radical, extreme, communist, Marxist party. That is now the heart and soul. And once Mamdani is officially elected, I think it's pretty much over for the Democratic establishment. 617-266-6868 is the number. Agree, disagree. Dave, our Western PA constitutionalist correspondent out in Pittsburgh. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How you doing?
Very good, Dave. I'm a little worried about Fetterman because Mamdani, AOC, and Bernie are now saying they're going to primary him. He's too pro-Israel and he's too establishment. And they say they're going to teach him a lesson. So I honestly, Dave, I think Fetterman's days are numbered. They're going to purge him, they're going to primary him, and they're going to bring him down. But anyway, that's not neither here nor there. Please, the floor is yours. Go ahead, Dave.
I think they're going to have a hard time because he's fairly popular around here in the Pittsburgh area, especially in Pennsylvania. If you remember, he beat Doc Oz pretty solidly the last time. But no, as far as the Democratic Party, Jeff, they're going to rue the day in New York when this idiot gets elected. I call him moron Mamdani, because you know what, Jeff? He knows he's playing the people, and the people don't know they're being played because they're too stupid. It's bad enough they're New Yorkers and Yankees fans, buddy, but second of all, Jeff, if they take the party any more left, they're going to fall off the cliff like the coyote. Remember the coyote? You remember in the Looney Tunes, Jeff, he fell off the cliff. He goes, and bang. That was it. And everything was Acme. He's playing with an Acme dynamite kit, and he's going to blow himself up, Jeff. Unfortunately, he's going to go jihad on himself and then kill himself. Unfortunately, politically, Jeff. And this is a gift for the Republicans, Jeff. That's what I'm saying. A lot of people have been saying that. And and on 9/11, if they do anything at Ground Zero or on that sacred ground, Jeff, I mean, I don't know. I don't know, Jeff. It's crazy.
Well, Dave, let me ask you this, because this is now very, very plausible and realistic. Right? He wins the mayoralty race. He becomes mayor of New York. Next year is the 25th anniversary of the 9/11 Islamic terrorist attacks. It's going to be a huge thing. Trump is going to go down to Ground Zero. I guarantee it. J.D. Vance, all the leaders in Congress, everybody's going to be there to commemorate it. There's going to be thousands of first responders. And Muslim Mamdani shows up. The Marxist jihadist shows up. And he starts going on about how Israel is the problem in the Middle East, how the Jews have too much power in the United States. And I'm telling you, he's going to go on about his aunt and how she felt afraid to wear a hijab for a couple of weeks riding the subway after 9/11. And that the real victim of 9/11 was his aunt and other Muslims. Now, how are the families going to react? How is Trump going to? I think Trump is going to literally tell him off, tell him F off right on the spot. But they're going to spoil that event. It's going to be a disaster. He's going to poison it. And by the way, he wants to build a mosque. Mamdani has said he wants a mosque right near Ground Zero. And he's going to fight like hell to deliver a mosque on Ground Zero. So can you imagine this guy at the 25th anniversary? It's going to be a disaster. Dave, agree, disagree? Final word to you.
I think so, Jeff. But hopefully before then, recently in the news, I don't mean to get off topic, but it's kind of related. The Hamas have been starting trouble again in the West Bank. They haven't learned their lesson, Jeff, over in Gaza. I think Trump says he's going to have to kill him. I mean, I know that sounds mean on the radio. It's not cutesy and all that nice for the Democrats to go kissy, poo-poo. No, Jeff, they're going to have to be eradicated. And then the UN's going to have to go in there and sanction the election.
Oh, you're right. That's the other thing. I think as Hamas gets more violent, remember, Mamdani is pro-Hamas. He's a big Hamas supporter. So if the war flares up there, he's going to be inviting, as he puts it, globalize the intifada. So he's going to want pro-Hamas riots and demonstrations in New York. Okay, it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Will New York City still be an economic center in 20 years? If I had asked that question even a year ago, you guys would say, all of you would say, the Kuhner man's lost it. No, really, it's time to retire. Right? If I said to you a year ago, of course it's going to be an economic center in 20 years. What are you, Kuhner, what the hell's wrong with you, man? What, the kids have finally driven you, what, the kids have finally driven you insane? You've lost your mind? It's time to hang it up. Oh, but now, 1 year, everything's changed. So, let me ask you again. Will New York City still be an economic center in 20 years? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. As always, you can vote via X. I was very active on X last night. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhn as in national ER. I'm a B. I think no way is New York going to be any kind of an economic center. Forget 20 years. This thing could go down in 10 years easy. Like London. Easy. Easy. But that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. Okay. There's an angle to this whole Mamdani rise. The Muslim Mamdani, that the communist Mamdani is getting a lot of attention. The Muslim Mamdani, not so much. And I just want to play this clip. This is Scott Jennings, the only conservative, the resident conservative on CNN, who is attacking Mamdani and refuting all of these liberal panelists on CNN, who are going on about how dare you say he's pro-jihad and that he's a terrorist sympathizer and, oh my God, he would have cheered on the 9/11 attacks. And Scott Jennings is making the obvious point. What is wrong with all of you? This is not a debate. He willingly, just a few weeks ago, after a major debate, invited the media to have him take a picture with an unindicted co-conspirator, literally the source of inspiration, the architect, the mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center bombings, Islamic bombings, that killed 6 Americans, injured, maimed, and crippled countless others, and was really the trial run for eventually the 9/11 attacks. And this is an imam who is a vile Jew hater, an anti-Semite to his core, who literally has called to raise an army of 10,000 men, his words, not mine, to wage a jihad on New York. And who has now said that America is a sick, sick, sick society in which the only answer is Islam. The full Islamization of America. He's got deep ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. He's got ties to Al-Qaeda. He defended all of those terrorists, both publicly and in court, that perpetrated that first World Trade Center attack. And they in turn said that they got their inspiration from him. And this is the guy you take a picture with, and not just take a picture at this cultural center that he runs, but praised him as a great Muslim scholar and a great Muslim leader who will have a seat at the table and be a key voice in his administration. And they're like, putting their arms around each other's shoulders like they're best friends. Like, what are we talking about? How much clearer does the guy have to be? Does he have to have terrorist or Hamas stamped on his forehead? Listen now to Scott Jennings. Roll cut 13, Mike.
In this particular case, I think he was making 2 points, actually. One is, if you did, God forbid, have a massive emergency like that, would you really want someone in the mayor's seat who has never had a job, never run anything, certainly never run anything at this level? Yeah. And that's been his entire argument, number one. Number two, it is true that Mamdani was taking a picture with an unindicted co-conspirator from the World Trade Center bombing the other day and called him a pillar of the community. Cuomo didn't make him take that picture. Mamdani took that picture and seems to be pretty proud of it. That's a legitimate thing to debate, but I think in this case of the radio show, the core issue was Mamdani literally has no experience. And if you had a 9/11 scale event, would you want somebody who can't prove that they can do anything in the chair? Legit
question. Is it fair to say that he would cheer on 9/11?
He's taking pictures with unindicted co-conspirators from the World Trade Center bombing.
I mean, are you willing to say that? You really think that he would cheer on 9/11?
He's taking pictures with unindicted co-conspirators from the World Trade Center.
Yes. I mean, how much clearer can you make it? He's taking pictures with the guy who masterminded and inspired the first attack at the World Trade Center and then defended them afterwards and has been calling for a jihad. And by the way, says that, and this is the other part, that the media is completely downplaying because they don't want the real Mamdani to come to the surface. He's deep down, like all of these militant Muslims, all of these jihadists, you want to talk about homophobic, he is a gay hater to his very core. And I don't mean he disagrees with homosexuality or he thinks homosexuality is a sin or whatever. No. This guy, remember, this imam that he's with, this is something people are ignoring, has called for gays to be murdered. Okay, this Siraj Wahaj has called for gays to be murdered. He has said, quote, homosexuality, lesbianity is a, quote, disease on society and must be completely eradicated. Well, how do you eradicate them? You kill them. You throw them off rooftops. You torture them, you beat them, you kill them. Mamdani is a supporter, or at least he refuses to denounce, Uganda's law, which is one of the most anti-gay, homophobic laws on the face of the earth. It is official government policy. Remember, he's from Uganda. He has citizenship from Uganda. He's a dual citizen. He got married there and partied for 3 days just a couple of months ago. He goes back to Uganda all the time. The Ugandan Muslims love him. They love him. I'm telling you, when the guy comes, they put him on their shoulders and this is our guy in New York. It is the official policy of Uganda and the Ugandan government. God forbid they think you're a homosexual, you're dead. You're caught in a homosexual act or a lesbian act or whatever, you're dead. You get tortured, you get imprisoned, and then you get killed. Now, under Islam, and this is again something liberals don't want to acknowledge, but it's true. Under Islam, you are permitted to lie to non-believers. A Muslim is permitted to lie to non-believers, especially if you will advance the interests of Islam or of Sharia law or of the global caliphate, this world Muslim empire. Now, it's a sin to lie to fellow Muslims, but not to non-Muslims, especially if you're advancing the interests of Islam. So, he'll go to LGBTQ events. He'll tell them, I'll give you drag queen story hour. He'll tell all these transgendered people, I'll give you free surgeries. He'll tell the gay and lesbian community, I'm with you. He goes to every gay pride parade and smiles. That's that fake snake oil smile of his. But deep down, look at the imams he hangs out with. Look at the Muslim Brotherhood that he surrounded himself with when he met with Obama in Obama's war room twice to help plan and strategize his campaign. Look at the supporters that he has in the Middle East and that he supports. Hamas, they murder homosexuals. We are going to have a special guest on. We will be talking about what the Democrats, especially Mayor Marxist Michelle Wu, has in store for Boston and what Governor Holden Healy has in store for Massachusetts. You are not going to believe it. So make sure you tune in at 9 o'clock or keep the dial on this. WRKO AM 680. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. But first, the Mamdani Revolution. 617-266-6868. Dave in Medford. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you, Dave?
Jeff, it's a sunny day. The sky's still blue today.
We're
Jeff,
still standing, Dave.
exactly. Jeff, I'm looking at this whole picture of Mondani. If this happens in New York, Jeff, I'm looking at Sharia law mandatory for the entire state of New York. For some reason, I got this weird feeling, and then it's going to dribble down to every state from starting in New York through the entire United States, because they're going to want to take out the entire state. They're going to want to take out the entire country here, Jeff. We don't need to be putting up with Mondani. We got enough problems as it is. We don't need anything. I mean, he wants to let everybody out of jail. Wrong. He wants to have prostitutes all over the city of New York. Wrong. And then what I'm also looking at, Jeff, is if they want to make sure it's going to be Sharia law, and then they're going to want to shut down all the Christian churches, Jeff. That's what I'm looking at. They want to shut down all the Christian churches and start making mosques on every church where the Christian churches are today, and make it mandatory to the entire United States. That's what I see, Jeff. And Jeff, I heard something yesterday. It was actually a Charlie Kirk video that I caught on one of his sermons, Jeff. He was talking about the invisible war. And believe it or not, Jeff, he's right. This is a war that people don't see coming because they don't want to pay attention to what's going on today. And Jeff, there's a song out that a guy named Diesel made for Charlie Kirk, which is awesome. It's called "How Dare They." Jeff, can you? Yes. Yeah.
Well, Dave, Dave, and thank you for that call. I really appreciate it. No, look, Charlie Kirk was not 100. He was 1,000% correct. And he said that radical Islam is a Trojan horse. And it's like a camel. It puts its nose under the tent, and then it enters one of your cities, and then it starts entering other cities, and then other states, and before you know it, they've grown up, they've emerged as a significant minority and eventually a majority. Now, that's what they've shown us this again and again. It's the same playbook. It's the same pattern. You see, the advantage that we have is they're very simple in their game plan. It's very effective, but it's very simple. They've done it in Britain. They've done it in France. They've done it in Italy. They've done it in Germany. They've done it in the Netherlands. They've done it in Belgium. They've done it in Sweden. I could go on. I could go country after country after country. And this is what they do. It's immigration jihad. First, they come in with numbers, and they establish themselves in concentrated areas. And then they demand Sharia law only in those areas. Special rights for them. Then they start electing people at the city council level. They start getting them elected as mayors. They start insisting that their children go to separate schools. Then they start to establish no-go zones. So you see, it's like apartheid. They separate themselves. But then, as they become bigger and bigger, they become more dominant, more aggressive, more domineering, and they start to really flex their muscles. You see it in Dearborn. You see it in Minneapolis. Now they want the call to prayer every day and across the entire city. And if you don't like it, leave. Literally, that's what they're saying. Leave. You don't like it, leave. Now, New York for them is even a bigger prize than London. London was a massive prize. New York is the biggest prize because it is the financial epicenter of the United States. It is the very symbol of American capitalism. And it is one of the most important cities in the entire world. In other words, this is the signal that will be sent across the Muslim world. Only 25 years after 9/11, if you can take New York, you can take any city. And if you can take New York, you can take America. And if you can take America, you can take the West. And that's why I've been saying this now for I don't know how many years. Islam is fundamentally incompatible with Western civilization. It's a religion of the East. It's not a religion of the West. It's incompatible with our democracy. More importantly, we're a constitutional republic. It's incompatible with our Constitution, with our republic, with our Judeo-Christian heritage and our Judeo-Christian values. In fact, it despises our Judeo-Christian heritage. And again, where's the peace? Here's a rising Muslim political superstar. Does he urge reconciliation? No. Does he want peace with the Jews? No. He inflames. He persecutes. He attacks the Jews. He persecutes and attacks the Christians. Is he any way American? I mean, this, as a politician, I'm sorry, this should be a no-brainer. September 11, you go out and say, boy, that was a horrible attack. 3,000 Americans died. We pray with them. We grieve with them. The victims, their families. No, it's about his aunt. And how she couldn't wear the hijab in the subway for a couple of months because she had dirty looks given at her. Do you know how offensive that is? And the most telling part in that entire press conference, look it up, everybody commented on it. He never mentioned the victims of 9/11, the 3,000 dead, once. Once. Where's the peace? Globalize the Intifada. Where's the peace? Supporting Hamas. Where's the peace? Chase the Jews out of New York. Where's the peace? Chase white people out of New York. Where's the peace? Like, what's peaceful? There's nothing peaceful. Now, I don't care. I'm telling the rise of the Irish, the rise of the Italians, the rise of the Poles, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Hindus, the Buddhists, the Jews. Take your pick. Okay, I can go any group, any religious group, ethnic group, racial group. Take your pick. It never leads to this. It's with them, it never leads to peace. So why is that? And then, here, the coup de grace argument. And then I want to go to our guest because this is very important for every one of us living in Boston and in Massachusetts. Name me a single Muslim majority country in the world, and they can't answer it, in which the religious minorities are not persecuted. Name me one. Just one. There's 57 of them. Name me one that Christians, Jews, Hindus, Buddhists, whatever, Alawites, take your pick. Yazidis, Kurds, take your pick. That are not persecuted. You can't. You can't. I'm telling you, it doesn't exist. So where's the peace? And we want to import that here? And we're going to elect that as the next mayor of the greatest city or one of the greatest cities in the world? It's civilizational suicide. Now, speaking of suicide, and this is more of an economic nature, joining me now is Paul Craney from the Mass Fiscal Alliance. We've had him on this show many times before. Paul, how are you? Do we have Paul?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, Paul. How are you?
All right. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on the show, Jeff.
Well, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. You've been breaking some big stuff over at Mass Fiscal, and I really appreciate it. I know the audience does. So I just want to, for everybody out there, I want to take it step by step. Let's start with Governor Healy. So she's pushing now potentially a bill. It looked like it was going to be pushed tomorrow. They've at least delayed it. But it's a call for taxes to be increased all across the state. Can you please explain and elaborate?
Oh, absolutely, Jeff. Now, it's very important what politicians talk is cheap, action speaks louder than words. And if you watch Maura Healey recently, she's been talking about how she wants to make the state more affordable and lower taxes. She's attacking President Trump for you name it. She'll throw the attack at him for making Massachusetts and the country more unaffordable. However, Governor Healey, for now the third year in a row, has been proposing a bill. Last legislative cycle, the 2-year cycle, it failed. We pushed back and we won. She's trying to push it again, and tomorrow there's going to be a hearing on a part of the bill. And what this bill would do would allow local towns and cities to have the ability to increase local taxes. Specifically, everyone in Massachusetts, residential, commercial, doesn't matter, we all have to pay a vehicle excise tax. This is a tax on a vehicle that you own after you've already paid sales tax, after you've already paid income taxes. You just get to pay another tax once a year for having the luxury of owning that vehicle. And those taxes go down to your town or city. What Maura Healey wants to do is allow the towns and cities to triple that tax.
Triple.
I think it's up to 5% of the value of the vehicle.
5% of the value of the vehicle.
Yeah, that's a pretty big hit. Every year.
So let's say you have a vehicle that's worth $20,000, $25,000, or $30,000. Paul, we're talking literally. Am I missing something? We're talking thousands of dollars. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. And if you own a small business that has a fleet of vehicles, guess what? All those vehicles. You think about a plumber's company, a landscaper, or if you have like a lumber yard. All these vehicles that you own are going to get whacked. And guess who pays for that? The consumer, the customer. So this cost is pretty significant. Her bill would also allow towns and cities to increase the hotel motel tax and basically like the takeout food tax. When you go to a restaurant, you'd get food taken out, or if you have some kind of food, you get a sandwich to go. You pay a tax on that, as opposed to when you go to a grocery store and you buy your food in the grocery store. So the interesting part about all this, Jeff, is while this is all happening, that she's pushing this local options tax, the state is also spending billions on the migrant crisis, the inadmissible migrants in Massachusetts, and local aid to towns and cities have been flat. So the budget's increasing. I think it's about 50% over the last 8 years. We're spending money on all the people from around the world coming to Massachusetts. And local aid has been flat, and her response is, towns and cities, guess what? You can just raise taxes on your residents. And don't forget, this is all in the backdrop of the net zero mandate that this governor is a huge champion of, which increased costs for towns and cities. It basically says new construction has to be net zero, so you got to do, instead of natural gas, you got to do electrification. All this stuff costs a lot of money. And unfortunately, the people at the crosshairs of all this are the taxpayers. And so what we're trying to do at Mass Fiscal is push back. We won this tax fight 2 years ago, and we're not going to let the governor get her tax wishes easily. We want to push back. And I'm asking your audience, if you can, please check out our website, massfiscal.org. We have a call to action tab, which basically means if you spend, a minute of your time on our website, you just type in your name, your contact, your email, and you'll send an email automatically to the State House, to the governor and lawmakers, telling them to oppose Governor Healey's local options tax. It does the email for you automatically. When you're done doing that, you can send the link around to your friends, families, coworkers, neighbors that are like-minded, and, of course, post the link on your social media. What we're trying to do is just flood that State House with fierce opposition to this local options tax.
I love it.
Yeah,
Paul, I love it.
These people,
massfiscal.org, massfiscal.org. Paul, I want to ask you on two other important issues, and one just segues beautifully into the other. You mentioned the migrants, and I know that Mass Fiscal rightly has been leading the charge against Bill S-117. Now, the way I understand it, they now want to give direct cash assistance, cash, and SNAP benefits, i.e. food stamps, to non-citizens, to migrants, to DACA recipients. But what I'm also reading, if you look at the fine print, is they claim there are residency requirements to get these welfare benefits. But the residency requirements, it's a scam. In other words, you just have to come to Massachusetts. Doesn't matter if you came here illegally or not. The moment you come in illegally, you're automatically considered a quote-unquote resident, which means you're then eligible for automatic food stamps and for direct cash payments. So really, they're now going to flood our taxpayer money and give them to migrants, non-citizens, and every illegal alien. Am I wrong, Paul?
You're describing it pretty well. We put out a video on this. You can check that out on our social media pages on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and X, which is the old Twitter. We did a video where we confronted one of the sponsors of the bill in the House. And he basically said, you have to be a resident, you have to be a resident. That was his pushback. And, of course, the staff person who was in charge of, pursuing this elected official knew what that definition already was, which is it's not defined, which means anyone who just physically can find themselves in Massachusetts automatically is eligible. Now, that bill's moved out of committee in the Senate. It has not moved in the House. But the fact that you have a bill so controversial moving is worrisome. So we're hoping that, through the video and public pressure, these elected officials will take some pause on this stuff. When it does have a date for a hearing or a vote, we'll certainly let your audience know so, again, we could do a call to action and just flood that state house. But, the state is being really mismanaged right now. All this money for the migrants, all these net zero mandates, all these tax hikes. And I don't want your audience to think like it's hopeless here, because it really isn't. There's a lot of really normal people in the state. It's just our elected officials are out to lunch. Their priorities are all out of whack.
The voters are not informed, and that's why I think your group is so important. Look, if they heard about this local options tax, where their local, town and city taxes are going to go through the roof for many people, thousands of dollars, they're going to have a tax revolt. If they heard that we're going to be paying for food stamps and direct cash payments to every single illegal alien, the people would go nuts. If the Republicans are listening, they can break Maura Healey on these two very issues. You've actually put a blueprint together for the Republicans to win the next election. There's no question. And I've got to ask you this, Paul, because we only got a couple of minutes left. The Mamdani effect. We're starting to see it now in mass among the left, the hard left, and the Democratic Party, but also with Mayor Michelle Wu. She recently came out and said, because of Trump's tariffs, the cost of living in Boston is now so high, Paul, that we have to have government-run city groceries. She wants to imitate what Mamdani vows to do in New York. What say you?
Michelle Wu, the mayor of Boston, is a total radical. Only Michelle Wu would make you miss the days of Marty Walsh and Tom Menino as mayors of Boston. But she doesn't represent the people of Massachusetts. She represents the far left fringe, the most radical side. I mean, the other day over the weekend, she proposed to eliminate Prop 2.5, to eliminate it. And a few years ago, she proposed bringing back rent control. Her only ideas are expanding the size of government and more control over the people. Boston is not doing well financially. Boston is increasing its taxes. The cost of living is through the roof. The services are very poor. And large part is because of the city council, not all of them, but definitely a majority, and this mayor. They're not focused on affordability and trying to help people. They're focused on ideology and trying to make headlines, and you see it all the time. The good news is, again, I don't think Michelle Wu, I don't think Maura Healey, some of these radical elected officials represent the people of Massachusetts well. When people hear about what's going on, they get very concerned, and when you get concerned, you can do these call to actions and put pressure on these people.
They get outraged. Paul, you're doing outstanding work. I'm urging everybody, please go to massfiscal.org, massfiscal.org. We've been talking with Paul Craney over at Mass Fiscal Alliance. Truly, they're doing the Lord's work in Massachusetts. Paul, keep up the outstanding job, my friend, and we'll talk soon. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I know we've been talking about the Mamdani Marxist revolution, and it is clearly a Marxist revolution. But look, you heard it straight from Paul Craney. And it's, by the way, we just touched the surface. So just so that you know, everybody out there, okay, just to take it all in, Maura Healey now, they're going to push a bill, and they have the votes in the House and in the state Senate up on Beacon Hill, that would literally allow local towns and cities to raise excise taxes, your vehicle tax in particular, your vehicle excise tax, 5% of your car's total value. 5%. Now, I have a secondhand car. Grace has a secondhand car. But both cars, I mean, they're over $20,000. Almost, I think, $25,000 when we bought them. So combined, that's $50,000. I'm looking at $10,000. No, forgive me. I'm looking at, whatever. I'm looking at thousands and thousands of dollars. Okay, I'm looking literally at thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm telling you, I can't afford it. I'm being honest. I can't. You're going to financially break me. That's number one. Number two, now you're going to pass a bill to entrench it in law, to legalize that illegal aliens, migrants, DACA, non-citizens, all of them, now they're going to get food stamps? We have to pay for their food? Cash money? Direct cash assistance? And remember, don't fall for this whole residency requirement, a mumbo jumbo. The spin, well, they have to have a residency requirement. There is no residency requirement. The residency requirement is zero. You are considered a resident of Massachusetts the moment you enter the state. That's it. The moment you come into Mass and say, I want to live here, boom, you're a resident. So what that means effectively is we, the taxpayers, have to fund and subsidize the food and the cash and the living expenses of every single illegal alien in Massachusetts. Never mind the legal immigrants who are non-citizens or DACA. And so, when I came to this country, and I love this country, please don't get me wrong. You don't know how much I love this country. To get my green card, I had to prove that I was economically self-sufficient. Forget citizenship, the green card. That I had a job waiting for me, that I was going to take no social assistance. And, they were right. I wasn't going to be a drain or a burden on the taxpayer. Look at this. So, every illegal alien we're going to have to fund. Every legal immigrant could technically claim that I got to pay for their groceries and I got to give them $2,000 credit card cash payments every single month. You think Mamdani is going to bankrupt New York. What do you think this is going to do to Boston and towns and cities all over Massachusetts? And then you've got Mayor Michelle Wu, Marxist Michelle. So if New York is going to go with government-run grocery stores, guess what? Boston now is going with government-run city grocery stores. So we're going to have food lines and food shortages here because that's exactly what's going to happen. This is what I mean. This is the Mamdani effect. Now you can't be far left enough. Now, I'm telling you, this is not bluster. This is not some idle threat. I love this state. I love the city of Boston. I love the history, the heritage. Boston is the cradle of the American Revolution, the cradle of American freedom. My children love it here. My wife loves it here. I love it here. I love the people. Honestly, fall here is the best. I love fall. I love the changing of the leaves, the colors. I love the cool, crisp air. I mean, I could go on and on. I don't want to sound like a travel brochure. But in all honesty, I really do love Massachusetts. But if you're going to bankrupt me, I'm sorry, I can't. Like, there's only so much financially I can take. New Hampshire is just right across the border. And I'm telling you, you're going to have now, if they push this through, and they're going to try very hard, you are going to see a massive tax revolt. Paul Craney on this is 1,000% correct. You can't squeeze blood from a stone. You can't. And what the Democrats now are so arrogant because they've had one party rule for so long, and the Republican opposition has been so weak and so feckless and so ineffective and frankly so corrupt that I don't think they realize how alienated they've become, how disconnected from the mainstream. You think independents are going to go for this? As Paul rightly said, you think ordinary tax-paying residents of Massachusetts are going to support this? Look, in New York, they're talking about an affordability crisis. Massachusetts doesn't have an affordability crisis? Boston doesn't have an affordability crisis? The cost of rent, the cost of housing, the cost of food, the cost of groceries, the cost of your energy bill and your utility bill. We pay some of the highest taxes in the country already. And you want to soak us for thousands of dollars more per family, per citizen, and give most of it to illegal aliens? You're crazy. You're crazy. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Victor Davis Hanson now, a man I highly respect, to me one of the most brilliant commentators in the country, has now come out and he's warning the people of New York City, saying if you elect Mamdani, his words, not mine, there will be no going back. And I do agree with him. I think the country, in fact, Republicans and conservatives and MAGA will be significantly strengthened because they'll look at Mamdani and the disaster, the havoc that he will wreak in New York. And once Mamdani becomes the poster child, the rest of the country is, I mean, you think Trump is popular now. You ain't seen nothing yet. But as far as New York City is concerned, it's essentially they're committing suicide. I mean, once you blow your brains out, that's it. It's over. There's no going back. You're dead. And Hanson is saying they're basically going to kill themselves. It's a form of civic suicide. Now, very quickly, and I think this is a brilliant, brilliant email. And I want to thank Sally for emailing the Kuhner Man. You can email me always, Jeffrey Kuhner at iHeartMedia.com. Jeffrey Kuhner, Kuhner, at iHeartMedia, all one word, .com. And really, this is about Mamdani and letting the Muslim threat into your country. And here is what Sally writes. Jeff, the whole situation reminds me of the fable about the woman who took in the cold snake. She nursed it to health, sheltered it, warmed it, fed it, and coddled it. And then it bit her. And she cried out in protest as she lay dying, "Why did you bite me when I have shown you kindness and given you everything?" The snake replied, "You knew I was a poisonous snake when you took me in." Mamdani is a poisonous snake. And we never should have allowed him and his fellow militant Muslims in. And I fear, like Europe, we're now going to pay a very dear price. The bite is coming. And believe me, his fangs are poisonous. 617-266-6868 is the number. Agree, disagree? Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Day in New York City will be a dark day in American history, without question. To the politically stupid, all dictators come to power by peddling socialism. And I'll repeat that again. All dictators come to power by peddling socialism. When are you idiots going to get your head out of your rear end and come to the realization of that? Hopefully, many more Americans will abandon the left-wing Democratic Party. And there's no question, Jeff, they've been fully exposed for what they are. Mamdani's main supporters are Jew haters, communists, people who want to suck off the production of others. And believe when I say this, Mamdani will make it mandatory. Before you leeches collect your welfare money, you will have to say, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, before you get your money. Believe me, that's what it's going to come to in New York City.
Russ, at this late hour, do you think the people of New York, are they going to come to their senses and not elect Mamdani? Or do you think the die has already been cast? In other words, he's way ahead in the polls. Apparently, there's a lot of early voting. It seems to be very pro-Mamdani. It's almost as if the city is determined to jump off the cliff. Is New York savable, or are we now witnessing the downfall, the fall, as I put it, of one of the greatest American cities? What say you, Russ?
When I hear the young people, and again, I'll call them leeches, I'll call them people who want to suck off the production of others, they get sucked into socialism. There's no question about that, Jeff, okay? And even here in Massachusetts, we got a lot of people that get sucked into socialism. And there's no question, there was a Scottish professor, it was 1890 or whatever, said that eventually all democracies fail, because once the people realize they can raid the treasury, the next thing you know, the country goes bankrupt. That's what's going to happen in New York City.
Russ, as always, excellent call. And you're right. You're completely right. That's always been the downfall of democracies. And now we're starting to see that in New York. Thank you so much for that call, Russ. I appreciate it. Sarah in Wellesley. Thanks for holding, Sarah, and welcome.
Hello?
Hi, Sarah. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. This is my first time to call, and
welcome.
I'm a little bit
Welcome,
nervous.
Sarah.
Thank you. So I was recently doing some family ancestor history research, and I found out that I'm descended from a really important Minuteman who was in Medford.
Wow.
And his name was Isaac Hall. And I just had no idea about any of this, and it's so exciting. Like, wow, this guy was really important. He was a captain of the Minutemen. His house was the first house that Paul Revere stopped at during his midnight ride. So I keep doing more research about this house, which fortunately the town of Medford has designated as a landmark, and there's a plaque out front. But it's not a museum, and it's private property. And in 2018, it was purchased and converted to a Muslim mosque.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, you want to talk about an analogy of what's happening to our country. That is very powerful. Sarah, do you fear what's happening now with Mamdani? I know Mayor Wu, very far left. She's a rabid socialist ideologue. I think she's a communist, but let that go. Healy, ditto, same thing. Do you think now Boston will go the way of New York? In other words, is this a cancer that is now going to spread to other cities and other states? Is that your concern, Sarah?
Sure. And I mean, in a way, Boston is preceding New York, not like officially, but you just look at the policies and look at the way Wu behaves, and we're kind of ahead of New York. I used to live in New York City, and it's a weird place in terms of voters and politics. Like, they just select the worst people half the time, and there's a large gay population in Manhattan. How are they going to a vote for Mondami. I don't get that.
Sarah, I'm telling you, it just boggles the mind. You know, it literally just boggles the mind. You know, it's akin to, really, Sarah, I assume, and I may be wrong in my assumption, but I'm just looking at your name, and I can, and where you're calling from, and I assume you're a white woman, correct? Am I wrong, or am I assuming correctly?
Yeah, I'm a white woman descended from a Minuteman.
Okay. It would be like, really, there's a candidate that says we're going to drive all white women out of Massachusetts. We're going to tax them unfairly. We're going to target them. We're going to persecute them. We're going to harass them. We're going to show them no mercy until they leave. And you call up the show and say, I'm voting for this guy. I would be, why? Like, what is wrong with you? And you go, well, I like a $30 an hour minimum wage. Or I like universal child care. Or I want to ride the bus for free. Or whatever, whatever I'm like, whatever. He's going to drive you out. You're not getting that $30 an hour minimum wage. You don't want to ride free on the buses because they're going to attack you on the buses. Like, this is what I don't get. And, Sarah, I just want to add one other thing and give you the final word on this. By the way, you should be incredibly proud of your ancestry. Really, I mean, I'm proud of my ancestors, please. I don't want you to think I'm a self-hating man. I'm not. But boy, it's always been my dream to have like an American revolutionary, a genuine patriot or a Minuteman as one of my ancestors. Like, wow. Really, like Sarah, you really are very fortunate and very blessed. But let that go. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to give a big shout out and a hat tip to Rick. Rick texted me this literally during the break while we were off air about that famous quote from a Scottish historian and a Scottish writer. His name was Alexander Fraser. I believe you pronounce it Tytler. It's Tytler. But it's one of the most famous sayings ever about democracy. It's something our founding fathers, I don't care, George Washington, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, Franklin, Hamilton, you name it, all of them understood very clearly. And that's why they bequeathed us not a democracy, but a constitutional republic. And this is the reason why. This is the quote. And just pay attention. As you listen to it, think New York City right now. And you'll say, oh my God, it's prophetic. It's truly prophetic. Here it is. Quote, a democracy cannot exist as a permanent form of government. It can only exist until the voters discover that they can vote themselves largesse from the public treasury. From that moment on, the majority always votes for the candidates promising the most benefits from the public treasury, with the result that a democracy always collapses over loose fiscal policy, always followed by a dictatorship. The average age of the world's greatest civilizations has been 200 years. Notice we're hitting about 250 now, next year. These nations have progressed through this sequence. Now listen to this. From bondage to spiritual faith. From spiritual faith to great courage. From courage to liberty. From liberty to abundance. That's us, or at least that used to be us. From abundance to selfishness. From selfishness to apathy. From apathy to dependence. From dependence back into bondage. Who's voting for Mamdani? All of these illegals, foreign-born, many of them third-world populations, people on welfare who want free government handouts. They want to raid the public treasury. And they don't care if that means it empowers and elects a Marxist Muslim dictator. That's where we are. 617-266-6868. Let's go to, who am I going to go to? Dan in Florida. Dan in Florida. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Dan.
So, hey, I told you I moved to Florida for my business, and I'm in real estate business. We've discussed it. So, hey, I was out with a bunch of realtors on Friday night. They are so excited about Mondani getting elected in New York, because you got to remember back during COVID, I was at a Florida Realtor Association event down here, because we actually held events during COVID, and there was a huge picture of Andrew Cuomo up on the wall, Realtor of the Year for Florida during COVID, because he sent us all the customers that had to leave to go to normal life.
Dan, I'm listening to every word, my friend.
Oh, so right now, everybody down here is excited about Mondani getting elected, because it'll mean a huge exodus from New York. And where are they coming? A lot of them are coming to Florida. We're excited about it. So.
And Dan, you think they're going to sell a lot of homes down there? I take it.
Oh God, yes. God. So the biggest thing, the biggest boom we saw was during COVID, when literally I would drive down the street and see nothing but New York, Connecticut, license plates, New Jersey license plates, people that were moving here because they couldn't live there. I have a lot of friends that moved from New York that said, their kids couldn't go to school, they couldn't live life, they couldn't go out to dinner. They all moved here because they could do it. Now we're seeing these people, literally in New York saying, oh, my God, I have to sell my properties in New York. Even if they don't live there, they've got to sell their properties and they need to buy elsewhere. So where would they go? Would they stay in the New York area where everybody's talking about their taxes going up? Or would they come to Florida where DeSantis is talking about outlawing property taxes?
Dan, I got to tell you, the Moonbats in Massachusetts are making it very hard for me to stay. I know Mamdani, and it's worse in New York when he wins, but they're starting to really, rack up the temperature here too. And I know a lot of mass refugees are going to Florida as well, not just New Hampshire. But if they keep it up here, I think every taxpayer, working middle-class taxpayer, is going to have no choice but to leave. Dan, do you think, how much time left, Mike? No time. I was going to ask Dan if he thinks New York City is really going to pull the trigger, the proverbial trigger, and commit suicide. But anyway, look, this story is not going anywhere. The election is still next week. Early voting has begun. I hope New York City pulls back from the brink.